Access to good jobs for all is the theme for October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. It's a time each year to recognize and act on the call to increase the number of people with disabilities in the workforce. In our region, Goodwill Industries of Northeast Indiana has been changing Hoosier lives since 1937, and we'll learn more about Goodwill's work to enhance quality of life and build bridges to opportunity in the workplace on this week's PrimeTime. And good evening, I'm Bruce Haines. With us today are two guests from Goodwill Industries of Northeast Indiana, where Kevin Morris is President and CEO, and Randy Wolf is Chief Mission Officer and VP of Workforce Development. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Randy.
Thanks, Bruce.
Good to have you both here. Appreciate it.
Good to be here again this year.
You know, if we were doing word association here at the front end of the program, odds are if we said Goodwill, most would come back store.
Yes.
Probably. I did not realize that that goes all the way back to, say, the early 20th century when the founder was, in fact, putting in that structure of collecting, repurposing, and then retailing or donating back to the community. So it's no wonder there's such a deep relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Pastor Helms, way back in the early days in Boston, pulling that together, and it eventually evolved into what it is today, which really, if you look at Goodwill across the country, there are 155 independent Goodwill corporations. We work as a federation together. We're not one big corporation. Here in Northeast Indiana, we're a separate corporation, so each of us approaches it slightly different, but we all hinge on the stores, which is why people think of the stores when they think of Goodwill. And that is such a small part of our business. Yes, it is a big revenue stream. It's about 70% of our revenue that comes into our organization each year. So when people come into our stores and they purchase things or they bring things to donate, that all leads back to our mission. And the mission is the part that most people don't understand. Now, the stores are a part of our mission. We are a second and third chance employer for a lot of people, but people that work in our stores come from all walks of life, with all backgrounds, with all abilities, physical, mental, whatever. We have people that have been with the company now in excess of 30 years, a lot of 25 and 20-year celebrations this year alone. But those folks are the front end. They're the ones that you talk to. They're the ones that are there to help you purchase those goods for all that money that flows into the organization then flows down into our employment programs and our education programs in the high school and colleges here in the area.
Yeah, it's almost like you can't judge a store by its cover because, you know, Randy, in a way, this is where the doors open for us to feel good about connecting with the community, but then they open for those inside to go out and connect with the community in an employment kind of way, which is the whole notion of monetizing that mission.
Yes. I like to think in a nutshell, it's helping prepare people for employment, to help them look for jobs in the community and help them succeed and continue to keep those jobs.
And when they the community making those donations, there are benefits that come along every step of the way. There's a tax benefit. There is, I believe, an environmental benefit, which often is overlooked.
And that's a big part of it. When you look at our revenue streams, all of it starts with the donations when they come into us, and those donations are extremely important. March of 2023, we had this real downturn suddenly in donations, and we struggled for a while to restock and replenish our stores. Then we started talking about it in our commercials, and they started pouring back in. Those donations end up in a lot of different places, whether they're on the shelves in the store, they're listed online in our Shop Goodwill site. Some of the merchandise we can't sell, so it goes to salvage. A lot of the apparel that is beyond use, beyond sale, we bundle that up in gigantic bales of about 1,500 pounds and sell it on the international market. That's a lot of money that's brought in an organization that helps us with that. We also recycle computers. If you've got computers or anything that hooks to a computer and you don't know what to do with it, if you take it to some places, you have to pay them to take it. You bring it to us, we take it for free. And we have a contract with Dell Reconnect, and then they recycle those computer parts and pay us for our time and effort.
Wow. Because often it is, for even as small as older computers are, it becomes the large elephant in the room when you think, what do I do with this now that it has passed the point of no return? So that in and of itself, a very good point to know.
And we'll take cables, we'll take mice, we'll take cell phones. But anything that basically hooks a computer, we like to laugh about the true dinosaurs sitting in our operations center. When you look at all those old-fashioned green CRT-style screens from the computers of way back when, it's just a lot of fun to see that old equipment come in and then be put to good use.
Wow. Well, when you talk about an organization nationally like Goodwill, federated in a sense, locally owned and operated, if you will, on the community front, the connection between the store and the workplace, that provision that you have of being one of the largest providers of workforce development services in the not-for-profit world should be right up there with the word association about the stores. Tell me how you found yourself in that pleasant position, but it also now creates, I guess, an opportunity to even move more.
It's really kind of wild how things come together. I worked for multiple retailers over the years, most recently Walmart. When I left Walmart, I went to Greater Fort Wayne, Inc., where I became that disabilities expert for employees and employers. So I knew how to do it because I hired people with disabilities, so we started talking to the community. So I started working with Randy and his crew very closely, helping them. I was free labor for Goodwill at that time, and so I'd go out and talk to the employers. I'd send people out for jobs. And you got to be, the old phrase, be careful of how you treat people you work with, because someday they might be your boss. That came true here.
Yeah.
And that's when I handed to Randy's crew and how they handle the Employment Services Department.
Well, and it's interesting, and then, Randy, you have VP Chief Mission Officer, and then VP Workforce Development. You're living both sides of that mission equation.
It's a nice fit. I feel like part of all of our mission at Goodwill, even the employees, we talked about that this morning in orientation for new employees that was coming on board, that all of us are mission for Goodwill. I think a lot of times places don't always understand or what we do and how we help the community and how we help individuals with employment. We do get our referrals from the state of Indiana's voc rehab system, and they come into services, and we help them prepare and then to find and secure jobs. And we also have, once they get jobs, we also have supports on the jobs. There's a lot that goes in between all that as well, too.
I know there are a variety of programs, and I hope we can at least touch and identify a few of those in this time together. One that stands out for how integrated its relationship is within the community with schools in the area is something called PREETS. And that's code. And would you mind interpreting?
Acronyms are everyone's business, it seems, but pre-employment transition services. So we catch kids that are in high schools that have an IEP. Last year we worked with 13 high schools and I think around 5 different colleges. The youth are from 14 to age 22, so we can catch them before they leave school. The goal is to get them prepared for when they're going to leave high school. So what's the world looking like afterwards? Last year we worked with about 440 students in all those schools, getting them ready for what's the next in life for them. In the summer we have a summer program, and during that summer program we had 70 students this last year. $58,500 they earned in stipends, and each student made $10 an hour for all the work that they did. So it was about, I think, $485 if you would divide that into each. So that's how much money they made during the summer each, roughly. I mean, but they worked in various places in the community. The city of Butler, they helped a lot of the activities there for working in with the city itself. Sometimes they cleaned some equipment, they put mulch out, they painted some of the grounds and things. They worked at Woodburn High School. They did some work around the grounds there. The Leo Parks Department. So, I mean, the whole community got to take advantage of what the students were doing. And the students actually feel like that's my community I'm working in, and they feel a sense of pride and ownership of the work that they did as well.
This has to be a huge plus for, I think all of us have been down that road which says, I know I want to do something, I just don't know what the something is, and then how I prepare to be there.
And that's part of the whole process, because as you go through this, there are things we teach at the high school level. We're just opening up a college program across different colleges here in the area as well for students in that age range, and help them discover what it is they really want to do. And that's actually a formal part of the process, is discovery, to help them figure out what they would like to do, how they fit into that, and then find ways to integrate them into that. And one story I can think of is we had a young man that was working in the employment service with them in the discovery part, and he wanted to do voiceover work. Okay, well, that's a little tough just to break into with no radio background. And so being a volunteer at the audio reading service, we were able to connect him with Georgianne Coffey, who runs that particular operation, and he volunteered there for quite some time and got the opportunity to experience what it was like to actually sit in a studio and read, and he did a great job for him while he was there.
In addition to what you've been describing, I understand there is also a relationship with vocational training, that you can now have this individual work through concepts like, don't we all need this, time management and budgeting and things of that nature, things that don't necessarily come in textbook form. Would that they did.
We do a lot of workplace readiness training to get individuals like, what's it like to be a good employee, time management skills to get to work on time, how to work along with coworkers. And a lot of times we'll do work experiences for our youth and also for our adult programs. Nothing's like being out in a job somewhere to learn what it's like to be along beside a coworker and getting along and working and understanding the new jobs and things. So.
Yeah, and so to have all of that come together for there to be true success, what is the role or the opportunity for the business community to come alongside something like pre-eds?
Well, a lot of times, a good example would be, one I'm thinking of is like the bicycle shop in town. They have their mechanics working on bicycles up until the end of the day, but a lot of times they would have to maybe close down a little bit earlier to get to clean up the areas and break down boxes. Say we have a young person that's interested in maybe being a bike mechanic someday. So what if we meet with the business and say, hey, we got an opportunity for you here. We got a person that loves bicycles. What if they come and work for you for a little while, and they can help at the end of the day clean up boxes and put tools away and clean them up. That young guy can learn about the bicycle business and industry, and those mechanics continue to work till the end of the shift. So the employer can actually make money, and the young person gets a chance to see and become a mechanic maybe down the road.
Yep. You know, in my years at Walmart too, and this is where I had my major exposure to Goodwill, when I was at Kendallville, at their supercenter up there, we just had a hard time finding people. And made an acquaintance with them at the Disabilities Expo one year, and they started bringing people in for us to meet of different skill levels with different disabilities, and started plugging them into where we needed help. And I know that there's at least 2 or 3 of them that are still working there after all these years and building to higher levels of what they're able to do within the store, making a good paycheck with benefits, with all the good stuff, just because of the exposure that we had a chance to get through Goodwill.
And this also seems to then go right back to the founding father, Reverend Helms, who said that the philosophy of our organization should be not charity, but a chance. And there is significant chance or significant opportunity, and as I think many are hearing, no necessary downside. So
exactly, you know, and we are very open-minded as we ask other employers to be very open-minded, because you don't know what you don't know when you're working with a new person and what their actual capability is going to be. And that's why I'm so impressed with the staff that Randy has and that Ashley has over in the employment services and pre-eds area. It's just amazing the magic you see happen with people who look like they've hit a dead end in life.
Well, and that's where some of the statistics, even from a year ago to today, are still hovering around the same numbers. 66% of adults in Indiana with disabilities who are not working are looking for employment. More than 1.4 million in Indiana with disabilities. That's 1 in 3 adults. But the state has some ground to still gain on the employment front, making me wonder, are there some preconceptions out in the workplace that are worth blowing up?
Yeah, I think sometimes employers are afraid to take a chance. They're afraid that, what if it's going to cost me more for insurance, or what if they're not going to show up for work or things. But I think it's education. If you get employers that take a chance and try, well, we've done that. we hire a lot of our own individuals, and we're so thankful. We got, like Kevin said, we got people that's been working for us for years and years, and we rely on them to show up every day because they do and they love working there. And just the excitement. There's a young guy that worked at the Tin Caps over the summer, and when he wasn't at work, his coworkers felt it because he added an extra level of excitement to he just had a good energy about him, and his coworkers loved working with him and being at the same place. So I think from an employer standpoint, I think if they would take a chance and try and talk to us and contact us, and we could be able to help maybe try to find some good matches.
What have you heard in your experience?
Well, you know, I've spent a lot of time talking with employers, potential employers, either talking about the open concept of disabilities employment or helping diffuse some of those nonsensical things we hear. And one of them is, well, if I hire them, then I can never fire them if they can't do the job. And it's like, no. They're expected to be able to do the primary functions of this job, which is why we're so careful in how we place and what we ask for of the employer. But after that, they're treated like an everyday employee because they are. They need to be able to build the skills, be given the chance, but if they ultimately can't do it, then you follow the same process you would follow with any other employee. They always worry about being liable for this or worried about their workers' comp. It has no impact on them whatsoever. Once again, they're just another employee. They just have something else that means you work around it a little bit.
Which leads to a notion that I believe was popularized in the last couple of years, where it's not just DEI, but DEIA.
Yes.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accommodation.
Yes.
And for some, not so hard, but it's getting over the mindset to get there, I guess.
One of the things that we see a lot of is when you look at a job description, you've got like 20 essential functions of a job, which is insane. You probably only have 3 or 4 real essential functions. And so part of what we teach is to help the employer how to understand, let's boil the job down to what really needs to be done. Can this person do those 3 or 4 things? If the answer is yes, let's give them a shot and see what can happen. All the rest of it's just secondary stuff. You can find a way to make it happen. And with the situation right now, with the lack of applicants out there, we've got an excellent pool of people with the abilities to do the jobs.
And Randy, also too, some employers may be able to wade in a little bit more easily when they realize that they can do mentorship programs or perhaps find themselves in lister training through Goodwill, janitorial training, skills to pay bills, extended follow-along services, where you have a variety of other ways for folks to kind of smooth out any of the rough of the first few steps.
We provide job coaching services. If a person, we help them find a job or they find it on their own and they need supports on the job. Our goal from the very beginning of when someone receives a job is for us to fade out of the picture and let the natural supports of their coworkers and their management take over and that person to be successful. Sometimes we even try, we will maybe do a work experience for a week and Goodwill will pay their salary and they can try the job out to see if that person likes working there or that's a good fit for them. And the employer also gets a chance to see how that individual may fit in there. And that's always a good match and a good blend. And usually at the end it comes out that the employer hires the individual and they move right along.
Yeah, and along with that too, and this is something I experienced when I was at Greater Fort Wayne working with Goodwill. When you have somebody who has been through that program and they've had the job coach and they get on the job and then something changes and all of a sudden they start to struggle, we reach back out to the job coach. Job coach goes back out again and starts to rebuild, if possible, to bring that skills back. And we've seen a recovery on multiple occasions where somebody was headed for the door, but because the job coach was able to step back in and help a little farther, develop a few new things, then the success story rolls out.
Right. In addition to pre-ETS and some of the other work that you've been describing, are there some other aspects of a week in the life at Goodwill that would be worth sharing with the audience while we still have time to do so?
Well, I was at the University of St. Francis, and they had a fair for their program, social work programs. They invited Manchester College, and they had Huntington College all come. So they had their students from different programs there. And I had a booth there, and I realized that all these other agencies were there, people were going to them and talking to them, knowing what types of jobs that were available. And when they came to my booth, I had explained what Goodwill did and our programs and services, and they were very interested. So I guess we're an unkept secret And if people are interested, Goodwill does have a career path for people that want to help individuals in the community.
And something else we do, it's free of charge. I'm a nationally certified ADA coordinator. I am more than happy to come out to any place of employment free of charge with no catches, just to help them understand what the ADA is all about, how their particular office or store or whatever is set up to handle accommodations, and help them understand. And the nice thing is, I'm not a government agency, so when I come in, I'm just there to give them ideas. I'm not there to call them out on things and see what they can do to feel more comfortable opening their business up to customers with disabilities and employees with disabilities.
Wow. And it brings it all back to the mission, which doesn't, it's interesting, it doesn't say anything about the store. The store is there. Sometimes it's invisible. It appears, but the work itself is very tactile. Goodwill empowering and preparing people for independence through training, personal growth, and work. And that last one, it is a sweat equity proposition.
It is, and Pastor Helms back in the day called it the power of work. It was a big emphasis on that. These days, our motto is always do the right thing, and we'll do whatever we can in the community to help a potential employee, a potential employer, our customers. That's what Goodwill's all about.
And that ties back then to that whole idea of October as National Disability Employment in the Workplace, and the idea of having accessible jobs for all. You have seen that each year it's a different theme, but it all seems to emanate from the same common crucible of wanting to expand that employment base. So how are we doing, would you say, looking back? How is the planet holding up?
I'll say here in the state of Indiana, we have made a lot of progress. We really have. Back in my early days of working at Walmart, we had that one person with a disability. It was almost like a mascot. They're out pushing carts or whatever. And what I've seen develop over the 20 years, now 28 years we've lived here in Fort Wayne, is we've seen doors open up. We see a lot more people out in the community having real jobs that are meaningful who have disabilities, employers being open-minded about it. We've also seen the city take that more accessible route. When you look at the curb cuts that were horrible for so long, that now you've got great intersection curb cuts. You've got businesses or places like the Art Museum where they've taken it seriously, and then that whole facility is accessible. And it's just incredible, the transition we've seen.
When you have a fit that you, I'm sure, have in your mind as ideal, and when that ideal is realized, when a person and a company literally come together, Randy, I wonder if it surprises you that when you have more of those occurrences, Accenture did a report that came out earlier this year that said that companies that lead on key disability inclusion criteria had 1.6 times more revenue, 2.6 times more net income, and double the profit. Surprising?
Well, when you have a diverse group of employees, no matter what, it just inspires creativity and creation, and just gets people excited about coming to work, knowing that you work for an employer that has those thoughts in mind. I know the AWS Foundation in Fort Wayne has done a great job. Fort Wayne in general has been a great community, even in architecture and things, to get more accessible places. I know they incorporate people from Design Collaborative in their designs and things. So Fort Wayne's just a great community that kind of embraces this, and it just, every year it's been growing, I feel, and getting better for individuals to help them succeed.
I know the president of Goodwill at one point in an interview recently said, we're the charity that seeks to end the need for charity in a person's life, because with the right kind of support, there's no looking back.
That is very correct. Just looking at what the mission is, and this comes back to what Helms said so many decades ago, is that we're not just giving them something to get them by. We're helping them to build the skills that build their life, that give them the things that all of us enjoy in our community. And that is very true of our mission.
So lots of ways to play, and if you are the parent or the support for a person in school, I believe 14 to 22 for
yes.
pre-eds, we'll have contact information available right as I speak. There it is, goodwill.org. You can call that number and find out how to connect either through you or through the child's school. through maybe the guidance
Yes.
offices or something along that
Yes,
line?
each school, and there's the education department, they could help them get connected with the programs in each school. So.
And then also the reference as well to how this is moving into the college setting.
Yes.
Same idea.
That was something that was added to us this year in our new contract that starts October 1, is that we'll be working at the college level. Ivy Tech's got a brand new program that's being funded through the AWS Foundation. We will be assisting with that. We're talking with Indiana Tech. There's a lot of opportunity there for college students who have that need, that we can help them out.
And we hope that you, in fact, find opportunity in what has been shared here to see if there are new ways forward that perhaps were not on the original map. Helping to blaze the trail today, it has been a pleasure to welcome Kevin Morse back, President and CEO of Goodwill Industries of Northeast Indiana, and Randy Wolf, Chief Mission Officer and VP of Workforce Development. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
And for all of us with PrimeTime, I'm Bruce Haines. Thank you for watching. Take care, and we'll see you again next week. Good night.